Hello, everyone. Welcome to Subtle Asian Book Club. We are super excited to be talking about our November book of the month, As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. Just as a quick introduction, Subtle Asian Book Club is a book club dedicated to amplifying Asian authors, and I'm one of the co-hosts, Tiffany at Read by Tiffany, and I'm joined with Alexandra at Twirling Pages. And together, we're super excited to be with Zoulfa, who is the author of As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. Would you mind please introducing yourself and introducing your wonderfully written debut novel?
Hi, everyone. It's so amazing to be here. I've been a fan of your book club for a very long time. So this is a dream come true for me. So thank you for having me. So my name is Zoulfa. I am the author of As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. There it is. And this is a YA speculative novel, and it's my debut book, but I am also a pharmacist. I am actually doing my master thesis right now in cancer research, which is very interesting. I live in Switzerland, but I'm Canadian, so it's a lot of mix up there. And in my free time, I like to watch movies, listen to music, walk out in nature, and obviously I am a huge army, as you can see from Tay sitting right there as a background. This is not a real person, in case people think there's a real person behind me. This is just a virtual background, unfortunately, for now. You never know in the future. But yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
Yay, we're super excited, and we're so honored that you're honored, because when both Tiffany and I finished this book, we're like, this is like our new favorite book. This may be like our favorite book of the year, maybe like one of the favorites of like all the books that we've read as a book club. So super excited to have you. That said, this is your debut novel. Congrats. Your writing style was super immersive and amazing and engaging. Who are some of your literary inspirations?
Thank you so much for saying that. I do have a lot of literary inspirations. And I mean, the first book that I ever found myself so immersed in was The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, obviously. And so that shaped a lot of my writing style. But I wanted also to make it even more immersive. And I think one author that really comes to mind is R.F. Kuang with The Poppy War. I mean, it's like every time I try to convince someone to read it, I'm like, this is like, I confuse it with reality. I'm like, this happened. And I'm like, no, wait, this is fiction. Like it feels so realistic with how she described everything. I'm like, she was there. Like, I don't know how she did it, but she was in that magical ancient place, fictional China. And it's just, I love her writing style. And so I really wanted to, like, it gave me a lot of inspiration when I was writing Lemon Trees and I was revising it. I was like, I want to make it that tangible to readers as well. And another author that I really love is Cornelia Funke, who did Inkheart. And I mean, obviously it was in German and then translated into English, but the English translation was also so breathtaking with imagining this world, this fictional world that lives inside of a book, which was so interesting to read about. And so, yeah, these authors have shaped a lot of my writing style.
Iconic authors. I think it's so, when you said Hunger Games, it was very like, oh my gosh, yes, Hunger Games. Also, because I think Alexandra and I grew up reading those books, and now it's all coming back together and you're here. So for our next question, you touch on this briefly in your author's note, but you mentioned that you wrote this book to educate the world about Syria and share the humanity behind the quote unquote numbers. Did you face any challenges during the publishing process as you were trying to bring this story to life?
Fortunately, I have to say that my process in publishing, or querying, and all of that was not more difficult than other authors. I mean, I did face sometimes. I mean, there's just one moment that comes to mind where I was like it kind of, just it was weird. And so I was querying, and I received a rejection from one agent who was like, she was very enthusiastic at first, but then she sent me a rejection. She was like, well, it's very obvious and clear from your writing style that English is not your first language. And I was like, it's my mother tongue. And so she had like judged me from my name and from my ethnicity, and like just completely disregarded everything. So I didn't touch my manuscript for 3 months because, it shook me inside because I thought I was doing well. And when I came back to it, I was every line that I would write, I'd be like, is this fluent enough for her? Like, is this good enough? And so it did stay with me for a while until I overcame it. And I was like, you know, what she said is her truth. But I've received such amazing compliments from readers before I published the book, like my friends and stuff, who were like, this is amazing and I love your writing, and that is also a truth. And so I completely disregarded her and her comment, and I focused on the good, because that was not constructive criticism. That was weird. But most of all, I thought for me it would be kind of not, I don't want to say easier, but for me as an author, as a Syrian author writing about Syria, I thought that I would be filling this gap that has not been filled before, because there are no Syrian voices back then in YA. I mean, there was one in adult, and now there's me in YA and my friend Reem Shukedi, whose book is going to come out next year, The Next New Syrian Girl, and she's another Syrian author. But that's it in YA. And so I thought that, you know, we would be filling a gap, but apparently not. It was very, very difficult to get this book published and to find an agent. But in terms of like people pushing back, thankfully, I did not go through that. I was surrounded by people who supported me and who like really loved this book and really wanted it to, you know, go out there in the world and to meet all these amazing readers. And after that, after I got my agent, it was actually smooth sailing for me, because we worked on it for a year and a half. And we sent it to editors in February of 2021, and I sold it within 4 days to Little Brown, which is pretty amazing, which was awesome. And I have to say that my editor, being a Muslim hijabi, played a very, very big role in that, because she saw herself reflected in my characters in my book. And so she was like, we need this book. And she knew how important this book was going to be and how important it is for people to read it. And so I'm very, very thankful for her she read it in one night, actually, which was really, really weird. And I had my agent, I completely forgot, because like, I don't know if people know a lot about how sending out to editors works, is that you don't have a time limit. Like publishers could have your book for months or years and they would never, you know, give you a response sometimes, which is really, really sad. So I had completely ditched it out of my mind when we like sent it to editors. And it was like after 4 days, my agent emails me like at 12 a.m. She was like, this is not an offer, but we should talk. And I'm like, what? Like, I forgot that I was on sub. Like, it was so random. Like, who sells a book in 4 days? It was amazing. And so when you had the call and she was like, someone's interested, and I'm like, what? It was amazing. It was a wonderful night. I did not sleep a wink. And yeah, we sold it within like 3 days, I think, after that, to Little Brown in a preempt. And then the following month, Bloomsbury came along, and now I have 20 foreign rights, which is amazing. The one that I was really, really shocked with was Japan. So it's going to be in Japanese as well, which doesn't really happen, because like Japan has their own set of authors and their own literature, which is pretty cool. And so they only like, you know, translate very big names. And so for them to like pick up Lemon Trees was so amazing. So I'm really, really, really excited to see the Japanese translation.
So deserved. As you were talking through like the whole journey, I was like, you're like, the obstacles, like, no, I'm glad you kept fighting, because this book was so good. And now I'm like, we're getting to see you thrive and how wonderful it came together. It's like, oh, my heart is so full for you. I'm very excited for you.
Yeah, dude, that answer was literally an emotional journey, because it started off like, oh my gosh, that was so horrible. And I was just like thinking about that. And then someone commented, and literally same. So the agent who like was like, oh yeah, like it's clear your English is not your first language. I was like, I'm so angry. And then it's like super like it gets picked up and like it gets like auctioned and like bought off like basically within a week, and then you're like, what is going on? Yeah.
Deserved.
Thank you so much. I mean, honestly, like, I'm happy that I pushed on, because like for 3 months, I was like, you know, I queried it. It's not working. It got like over 50 rejections. And I was like, what am I going to do? I can't do more than what I did. But I'm so happy that I persisted and I went on with it, because like, even like querying is extremely emotionally taxing. So like all queryers out there, you have to take care of yourself. Like mental health is so important when you're querying. But also like within that time period when I was trying to get it to agents, my personal life was like, it was at a standstill. Like it was on pause. Like I had nothing going for me. I had no graduate studies. I had no job. I had moved to Switzerland. And so I had no language. And so it was like, nothing's going on. Nothing's working. This book isn't working. My life isn't working. So I'm really, really happy that I overcame it. I mean, it was difficult, but it just taught me to be strong, and it's okay to be sad. Like I was upset that I was sad because I wanted to be proud that I actually wrote a book. Like it's okay if I got rejections. But saying it is easier than doing it. But I'm glad that it taught me a lot of things, this whole journey of 5 years.
Oh my gosh. Wait, so when did you start writing the book, or like when did you have this idea?
I started in NaNoWriMo of 2017, so November 2017, and I got the idea in September, October. So I started going to German school, and a lot of people, German school has people from all nationalities, and so we'd be like, "Where are you from?" "Oh, you're German." And so we would be talking, and so they would be really interested of me being Syrian, because they would, hear about it on the news and all that stuff. So they would think that I'm a refugee and they want to know what's going on. And so I was like, oh my God, like I came from the UAE where Arabs obviously know what's going on. And so I was like, oh, I should write it into a story. Like it just came to me as a story. And the first character that I ever thought of was Khauf, the hallucination, because I wanted to add a speculative element to it so I could make it into a young adult. I wanted it to be a story like that. And it's just like, it felt like pulling a thread, and then it all came rushing after each other, which was very, very interesting. So it was, it started with an idea. It's just, obviously I'm trying to think so hard of how pinpoint that moment when I got the idea. I cannot. Like it was a lot of things just like coming together. And then one day I'm like, hallucination. Like that's how it is. And then obviously Sadama came after that, but yeah.
That's so cool. I always wonder like how the writing process is like, because like sometimes authors are like, oh yeah, the characters just like come to me fully fleshed, and sometimes authors are like, oh, I have to like really craft this character. And so for you, describing it as like pulling a string and the story kind of just unfolding is like super interesting. But along those lines, like what was the research process like when you were writing this book, and what part was the most difficult and which was the most rewarding?
So a lot of the stuff that happened in the book with the hospital or the people who are dying are obviously true events. So I had to Google that. And it's events that the news and social media have reported on, but a lot of people, for example, don't know about. Like the little boy who says, oh wait, before I say anything, is this a spoiler chat?
So
we'll preface this section as
spoiler chat, because I'm always saying anything about this book. I don't want to spoil anything. So like the boy who says at the end of chapter 5, I will tell God everything. So this is a story that has been told so much on the news and on social media, and back then when people found out about it, they were like, it was everything anyone was talking about, but a lot of people still don't know. And so it was like these stories that I wanted to bring back to life, because I don't want them to exist in that one time period. I want it to be like people should know about them, always at the back of their head, because this has happened. And I think the least that we should do is know their stories. And so it was just that research process of, finding out what happened to certain hospitals or to certain places in Syria, and gathering all the news reports and trying to make a story out of it, because I don't want it to be just numbers on the news, but actually real human emotions. And that's what is happening. These are stories. These are human beings that are being affected. And so that was very, very difficult to write, because I was crying and we needed a lot of breaks on that. But ultimately, thankfully, I was able to do it. I mean, it was difficult, but I was able to do it. Yeah.
When you say like you were crying, I'm like, I was crying when I was reading the fictional version. I can't imagine reading the non-fictional version.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But we're so glad that you, like, again, wrote this story. It really brings to life so much of what has happened. And honestly, I hate to say, like, oh, it's educating us, but like in many ways, it is educating us on things we may not have known before.
Of course, no, I totally agree with that. I mean, that was something that I went through with Bruna Sepetys's Salt to the Sea and Between Shades of Grey. I mean, obviously, we've all learned or know about World War II in some way or another, but there are some pockets of stories that have happened around Europe that not a lot of people know about. Like, for me, it was that push to find out more about what was going on in World War II. So she talked about Prussia, she talked about the William Gustav ship that sank. And so these are things that maybe we have read about in passing, but like we don't really know. And so with what she did, that's what I wanted to do with Lemon Trees. And I'm so glad that I was able to do that.
Honestly, this book should be required reading. I'm gonna just put it out there.
I agree.
So, since this book is heavily focused on life in Syria during the war, did you consult any of your family members when writing? And how much of the lives of your main characters were influenced by those around you?
So my family has left Syria since the 80s, 90s, something like that. And so we've been immigrants for a very long time. So whatever has happened in Syria from 2011, my family hadn't been really affected. So it's like people like extended family, obviously, and friends who have lived there, or my friends who have immediate family in living in Syria. And so when I was writing about what I wanted to know from my family, like for example, from my parents who have lived a part of their childhood in Syria, I wanted to know how the childhood was, like what memories they have there. And so that is something that I tried to incorporate in Lemon Trees. Like, for example, my grandfather's orchids, or the visits that my mom used to make to her mother's hometown. These are things that I tried to put in Lemon Trees. I mean, they're just like those random memories that she has from her childhood, and the same thing for my father. But in terms of like other things, it was mainly research. I don't really base my characters off real people, just because I don't know, it feels weird for me for some reason. Like I don't want to write a copy paste of someone that I know, but I do try to take like things from people. So like, for example, with Salama losing, not a spoiler, it's not a spoiler. So with Salama losing her brother, who was arrested, that is something that is extremely common. So there are people that, people know, like, in Syrian communities, they talk, obviously. So if you're like this person from that family, and family names are well known in Syria. So like, if you say your family name is something, people would know that family.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would be like, oh, this family has lost a son, he was taken. And so it was like these stories that are spoken about in Syrian communities that have reached me and have reached my family, have reached everyone. And so I try to take from that and put it in Lemon Trees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. So last question related to like research and writing. As long as Lemon Trees Grow is marketed and categorized as young adult, but the topics like murder, war, and refugee experience in this book discussed can be seen as too heavy for younger audiences. Why did you choose to target this book particularly towards a younger audience rather than like an adult audience?
So when I was researching for Lemon Trees, it was 2017, yes. And still, Syria was talked about a lot. Refugees were talked about a bit more back then than they are now. I mean, now they're talked about on the news, but back then it was a bit more. And so there was this one video that was circling around on Twitter back then where this Syrian boy was being bullied by his classmates for being a refugee. And it was extremely heartbreaking to watch, but I watched the whole video and I was shaking at the end, like from sadness, from anger, from helplessness, because I mean, how can people do this? And it's books like this that teach children empathy, because these are, whatever children are non-Syrian children, I want to say non-refugee children or non-immigrant children, go home, and if their parents have wrong ideologies, they imprint that on their children, and then the children take it to school, they take it out on the people who don't look like them, who don't have the same experiences as them, and that creates a very unkind world. And so this is why I wanted to write the story, because if a child is old enough to experience pain, they are old enough to understand how that pain affects others. And these are the children who are going to grow up. They're going to make rules. They're going to make laws. They're going to change a lot of people's lives. And it's stories like this that are important in shaping a child's mind or a teen's mind. And I don't agree that this is too brutal for teens. I've had so many 16-year-olds, so many 17-year-olds, so many teens in general message me on Instagram or when I would do school visits, and they're like, thank you so much for writing this book. I didn't know I have a Syrian friend, or I have a friend who was a refugee or an immigrant friend, and I really want them to read this book because it affected me so much. And it's just like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is what I wanted. This is what I wrote this book for. And so I feel like people who say that underestimate teens a lot. They can handle so much that we give them credit for. I'm just so happy that there are, like, it's not just my book who does that. I mean, you have The Hate You Give. You have like other books that deal with heavy themes that people, deem as difficult or heavy. But there are more authors like me out there in the world. And I'm so happy that we're able to write the books that teens need and want to read.
Oh, I'm getting emotional all over again. But yeah, even though this is like a young adult book, I'm like, this is a book honestly anyone can read. Like, I want to make my coworkers, like people at my job, read this book, because I feel like it doesn't even read young adulty. Like, it's just meant for everyone. Like, you can get so much out of it no matter what age you are.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm so happy. I think it defies age groups, this book. So I'm really, really proud of that. Really happy that it's a book for everyone, as you said.
Yeah, truly required reading.
Okay, so we're going to transition a bit more into plot and character questions. So our first one for you is, Salama is easily one of my favorite protagonists of all time, despite being only 18. She has faced more tragedies and heartbreak more than anyone else could truly face in a lifetime. She's courageous and inspiring, but she's also not perfect. She does some morally questionable things, but you relate to her throughout all of it. Do you really see yourself in her character? I know you said you don't like to copy and paste people, but how much of yourself was put into your main character, I guess?
So I think the bare skeletal system of her, so her pharmacy and her love for Studio Ghibli are my things that I gave her to shape her character a bit more. But her and I are not alike at all. She is very much different than me. She is someone I can relate to, definitely, but she is not someone that I see myself in because her character is so much different than mine. I think if I were to say, I would find myself just a bit seeing myself in Layla, a bit, but not Salama. Salama is totally different than me. But it's just that these moments that you said where she makes some questionable decisions, these are spoilers, so everybody who's listening is supposed to, so you guys know what I'm talking about. That scene, I did not plan. So I was trying to find a way to make Salama give her a boat, but she doesn't have anything to force him to make it not that expensive and all that. And so I was writing the end of the chapter, and so the people were coming in with the victims, and just as Khauf gave her the idea, it came to me at the same time. And so I was writing, I was just gasping, and it kept me on my toes. It was so adrenaline inducing writing that chapter. I don't think I edited that chapter. That chapter is the same as it was since from the first time I wrote it. It was an outer body experience. I was I cannot believe she's doing this. And I was oh my God, how are readers gonna react? And I'm this is it was so juicy to write. It was so it just made me really scared. And at the same time, I understand why she did it. I mean, and I can't say that I see myself in her because I don't know how I would react in the situations that she was put in. So if I were to write a Salama before 2011, I think I would have seen myself in her because she's a totally different person than she is after 2011. And so it makes her, I was so happy that I was able to write her in a way that makes her look and feel so human. It feels like someone she's not a character in pages. She is a real human being with the choices that she was forced to make. And I feel like a lot of readers out there would see themselves in Salama, because every single one of us has that I want to save the world in their hearts. And so with her, she tries her best to save the world through saving lives. But at the same time, she is selfish because she wants to live. She wants Layla and her baby to live. And she would go to extreme measures to make sure that that happens. And so us too, we never know, right? And so it was like these moments that I feel like me and readers would relate to Salama a lot. And yeah, I'm kind of shaking right now thinking about that chapter. It was so adrenaline-inducing, honestly.
Yeah. This interview is like literally like waves of emotion and like
I know.
and I just like after every single question I have to sit there and I'm like I'm processing.
I was like, wow, you just said so many amazing things. My brain is taking a second to like just take it all in.
That's buffering.
So aside from Salama, who was like your other favorite characters to write? And who would you say is the most challenging? Because in my opinion, I'm like, oh, maybe Half is the most challenging character to write, but would love your thoughts.
He is my most challenging character to write because I wasn't allowed to know more than Salama. So the book is from her point of view. So if I were to know more than she does, then I would be influencing the way she reacts to him. And so there were a lot of scenes between her and him that I had to change because I was trying to find out more of who he is. Because for her, she tries to put him as a scientific hallucination. She doesn't want to think that she broke the fourth wall. And so it was like, I couldn't know more about him, and I wanted to so badly because he's so interesting to find out more about. Like, you know, there was this one scene that I was just reading the book right now, and I was like, there's this one scene when she tells Kinan that Khof is gone, and Kinan's like, oh, I'm glad, I didn't like him, and then she's like, oh, were you jealous? And I'm like, why would he be jealous of a hallucination? Like, what is happening right here? And then I'm like, oh my God, it's for her, he's a real person. Like, she sees him as a because Kinan be like, why would I be jealous of a hallucination? And so it's like I had to see it from her point of view that for her, this is a hallucination, but at the same time, is it? So I had to, it was very complicated writing this character. Oh my God, but it was so much fun. But my favorite character to write actually was Kinan because he was this very soft pillow and like so cuddly, honestly. Yes, same. And so it was so nice to write those quiet scenes between him and Salama because the book goes through so many difficult situations that she really does need to, you know, that reprieve, that just like that breath. And so it was very, very nice to write him.
Oh my gosh. I'm emotional all over again.
I have so much love for every single character.
I'm literally, oh my gosh, I need to read this book again. Okay.
It is a time read, at least. Yeah, because of the plot twist. Spoilers.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah. We will be talking about Kinan again shortly.
Yeah.
But
yes.
Transitioning into mental health and PTSD. The trauma caused by war was a theme throughout the book, and we saw Half as a manifestation of Salama's fears and worries, and we also saw Layla and her child as like a ray of hope and brightness amidst the chaos. And I am emotional all over again. Why was it important for you to explore these topics?
It was important for me because feelings are very abstract, and so when you hear about someone else's fear or their anxieties, it is easy to empathize with them, but it's sometimes difficult to put yourself in their shoes. And when it deals with people who have survived war and who have survived trauma, their fear is something very tangible to them. It is not vague, it is not abstract, it is real, it is always there. But at the same time, to combat fear, you always have to have hope. And I wanted to personify both hope and fear because, well, there's the darkness, there's always the light. And that's what Layla is. Precious flower as she is, she was the light in Salama's life. And so I just wanted her to be the opposite of Khof. But then Khof is like this, he's not really an antagonist, more of like this gray great character. Like, you don't know what he really wants, but he was mean. He was really mean. But like for him, he is something real for a lot of people. And so I didn't want to write about something that, you know, people have to imagine. I wanted him to be solid, so people can, like, he has a name and he has a presence. And that's how Saddam has always so seen him. When I said that, like, oh, were you jealous? Like, okay, yeah. So for her, he is something that she can, like, touch, you know? And so it was important for me to bring these emotions in a more personified manner to readers. Yeah.
Also, we want to shout out to like people in the audience. Like, if you guys have not gone onto Zoulfa's website, just look at the art section. Chef's kiss, like everything just like brings it all to life.
I agree. I was so happy. I really wanted to commission those. It was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I first went on the website and I was looking through the art, I was like, oh, I am like, to me, because like Half is like a antagonist almost like character, I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to like him, but I saw the art and I was like, wait, he looks good.
Yeah, no, that was the best. That was a reaction I did not expect from readers, because, like, you know that meme of the astronaut looking at Earth and that person behind him with the gun, and then like, was he hot? And I'm like, he was all along. Like, and people were like, am I attracted to this person? And I'm like, yeah. I have a friend who was reading it. Her sister was reading it, and then she was like, you know, low key, Huff is kind of like, you know, he's giving. She's like, he's not supposed to be read that way. I'm like, well, it's right.
You're like, it's evil. Why sexy?
Yeah, exactly. So that was something very fun, because all the comments when I put that on Instagram, they're like, wait, what? Like, we did not know that he was supposed to be handsome. I'm like, yes. Yeah.
Yes. The like, were you jealous line like makes more sense after I saw the art, because I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what? I should put it in the paperback, like a picture beside "Were you jealous?" so people would know, because like apparently that's not common knowledge. I was like, no, they'll know. Readers will know what I wanted to do with them.
Okay, so flipping back to our other favorite boy. So I think we all knew we would love Kinan the second he showed up on the page. We were, as Alexandra and I were like coming up with questions for this live show, she was like, you could really tell he was written by a woman. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Can you tell us more about the journey in crafting his character? Did you always envision him to be more of like a soft, wholesome boy?
I did. I really did, because I grew up, sadly, this is going to take a sad turn. I grew up like just watching in Hollywood movies or TV shows where Muslim boys were portrayed as misogynistic and sexist and abusive and all that is just like they were the worst. And I'm like, yes, some of these people do exist, but it's so dangerous to generalize in a way that affects everyone. It affects Arabs, boys, girls, both Muslim or Arab, non-Muslims. It affects everybody's views on this demographic. And it's like, I just didn't want, so when I was writing him, I was like, this is for Muslim girls to know that there are, you know, good boys out there who are kind, just like Kinan is, and soft and like love their religion, love their culture, love who they are, respectful, written by a woman, basically. And then after I finished the book, I was like, oh my God, I also wrote this for Muslim boys, because they've never been represented. I honestly cannot think of any movie or TV show where a Muslim boy was put in a correct light. I mean, the only boy that I can think of is Adam from Love from A to Z. He was
I was just thinking that.
I love him so much, but that book came out in 2018, and so I was like, it's fine, it's okay. We're progressing towards a better representation for boys in general, and so I've always wanted him to be like wholesome, and so it was so much fun adding more wholesomeness every single edit and every single rewrite, because he's so cute, he's so kind, and so I really wanted him also to be not the opposite of Cinema, but like he kind of completes her, because like with her, all the trauma that she went through, she's like devastated, like she can't do it anymore. But with him, which was very interesting to write, was that he still has hope, and he's still, when she says that he's probably the only one who dreams at night because nobody else is dreaming, like he still has. But then when you think about it even more, Kinan has taken on the role of mom and dad to his siblings. And so he doesn't allow himself to break, because if he breaks, they break. So he probably is suffering so much more than he says, but everything's from Salama's point of view, so we don't really get to see his point of view. Now I'm thinking I really want to write from his point of view just to see what he feels. I'm gonna do that. And so it was really nice to write a character like that you don't really see very often. But the good news is we are, as I said, heading towards a future where there are more characters like that. I 100% believe it. I mean, I'm proof. SKLE is proof. So many authors out there who hopefully will get their books published are proof of that. So yeah, I cannot wait.
Yeah, as I was reading this entire book, again, spoilers, I was like, if she kills off Kinan, I'm gonna riot. I'm gonna be so mad. Like every second I was like, I'm so afraid right now.
My agent, when I had my call with my agent, I don't know if she's watching this. When I had my call with my agent to accept representation, we were going through some edits and stuff. She was like, what do you think of leaving Kinan behind in Syria and Salama just leaving to Germany? I'm like, either they both die or they both live. I cannot do this. I cannot leave one person behind. I was like, no, like even I didn't think of that. That was like so, yeah, that was brutal. And she was like, you know what, it's fine. She was like, it's okay, we just a thought. But I was this close actually to killing him, and my friend stopped me. I was really this close. I was like, what if she's the only survivor? Like, what if? It was just a thought. It was a dark thought in the night when I was feeling emo. But I did not do it. Yeah. But no, yeah, I'm very, very happy that he survived. They're happy. I promise you guys, everything's fine. They have kittens. It's okay. Yeah.
I love that. I remember, so I was like a little bit ahead of Tiffany when we were reading it together, and she texted me at one point and she was like, okay, what if I have a feeling that like Kinan's gonna die and like she's just gonna end up alone? And I was like, there's already so much sorrow in this book. Like, we do not manifest your anxieties out here.
It's valid to be read. It was valid, but you're right. There was too much sorrow and hopelessness. Just because I was working on this book for so long that I don't want to say I got desensitized, because you can never get desensitized to this, but I felt like maybe like an idiot. I was like, maybe she got away with like too much. Like, okay, she's evading death and all that stuff. So, maybe it has to be more traumatic than that. But then I was like, no, this is good. The epilogue is good. Everything's good. It's fine.
Thank you, Alina.
Yeah.
Thank you. Shout out. You mentioned earlier, or you hinted earlier about writing something from Kinan's point of view. Is this like a soft launch of a novella or a short story? Because I need more.
I will say I have written 2 short stories for Lemon Trees. But that is something that I still have to discuss with my publishers about, like, it's got copyright and all that stuff, like to see how we can make it available to readers. But for me, I always write more for my characters. Like, I know there are authors who just write whatever is in the book and then that's over. For me, that's never been the case. I always write more for them. So there are 2 more stories, short stories. I'm hoping I can make them available somehow. But yes, I would really, really like for more people to read them.
We will. We will read it.
Yeah, we
will buy it. Yeah. I literally was listening to like the audiobook and then the ebook, and I was like, oh shit, I have to own this in person. So then I ordered a copy.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to a bookstore today and I'm gonna get a copy, which is kind of sad because I was like, I always like to hold a copy of the book for the live, but then a lot of times I'll end up reading it on audiobook and I don't have it. It will be on my shelf. But yes, tell your publishers there is a high demand from readers for short stories. please.
My editor, my UK editor did read the 2 short stories. She loved them, and so we're hopefully we'll work on that. Yeah, because I mean, I as a reader, I know what it's like to want more after the book ends. I mean, this is why I wrote fan fiction, because I wanted more always. And so it's like, I know, so I will be working towards that. So hopefully soon I have to hope I could get news on that.
Yay, thank you. Okay, and then you also mentioned that like you always tend to write more. Were there any like favorite scenes to write, and were there any favorite scenes that were like potentially cut out?
Yes.
That you wish you could have included?
Yes. So spoilers now. My favorite scene to write, honestly, was the sunset scene in chapter 17 at the end when he shows her the sunset. It was very Ghibli-like. It was very picturesque. I could see it in the movie, animated movie. I loved writing that scene. It felt like all the sadness didn't come to an end, but hope suddenly started becoming more than the sadness. One scene that I was kind of sad to delete was from the first draft, because in the first draft, spoilers, I have to say that, I'm really always so scared. In the first draft, Layla was alive. She wasn't dead. She does die in the book, but she was alive in that moment. And so when Salama and Kinan are going to get married, Layla and Kinan meet. And so it was a very cute moment to write, where Layla was like really happy for her, but she also is her family, so she kind of feels protective. And so there was like these cute moments where she's like, she has this mama bear on because she's got all those hormones in her because she's pregnant. And so it was really, really fun to write that as well. Did she go? No, she doesn't go to the hospital for the wedding. That was a very long time ago. That was like in 2018. I was sad to delete that after my agent and I made the decision to make Layla a hallucination. But that was very fun. I'm going to try and find it. I don't know where it was. It's somewhere in my Hotmail. I used to have a Hotmail, so it was somewhere in my Hotmail inbox. I could go dig for it. Yeah, that was fun to write.
Okay. Yeah. And then, so in a similar vein, do you have a favorite quote that you've written in the book?
I will say it is the line where Salama says that she thinks Kinan is the only one who dreams at night, because it kind of shows how she sees him even so early on. And so I like that.
Yeah, I need to reread this book. That is the conclusion. My concluding thoughts. But you mentioned earlier a little bit about like you wrote 2 short stories, but what can readers expect from you in the future aside from those 2 short stories, maybe, and what are you working on right now?
So I do have a second contracted book, and it is hopefully going to be out in 2024. I actually just got my edits yesterday. And so I'm really, really excited to dive back in. I always say that it's the opposite side of lemon trees. So it deals with what happens when you reach land. So a lot of people think that, oh, they're safe now. And it's like, no, this is not the end. This is another beginning. And so it takes place in a fictional town, city in Washington by the ocean. The ocean plays a very, very big role in the story. And it's this girl, Haneen, who is very white passing. And so she's Syrian, she's white passing. She goes to this very privileged school, this rich school where she's going to be the valedictorian in her class. And so she's aiming for that. And then enter Yahya, who is a refugee with his family, and he gets the scholarship to the school because the school wants to do something nice. And so when he goes to the school, people are like, they have their own misconceptions about what Muslims are, what Arabs are, or refugees, or Syrians in general, and he's not white passing at all. And so he disrupts the whole school dynamic, and him and Haneen come into they each find something they're missing in each other. So essentially it is a healing story. There's romance in it. With the edits yesterday, I'm so intrigued in taking it to the next level. So I'm really, really excited about that. But yeah, I'm really, really happy. I'm happy. I'm excited for readers to read it. I hope you guys like it. I hope. But for the future, I I have contemporary, I have fantasy in mind. I really want to do a 1001 retelling. I have a story for that. I would love to write adult one day. I would love to write rom-coms. So yeah, it's once you start writing, what I love about writing, that's for all writers out there, don't be afraid that you never have a story idea. Because for me, I was so scared that Lemon Trees was going to be the only one. Honestly, it never stops. As soon as you start writing, you get so many stories ideas, like so many. So yeah, it's amazing what the human brain can actually make. It's fascinating.
Are there any overlaps in characters between Lemons and the next book?
It is set in the same universe, I will say. Can I say that? It's set in the same universe.
Okay. We'll take it. And then we have someone who asked the question just like regarding your experience in pharmacy school. Like, so what inspired including flowers and their medical purpose? I think something super fascinating about this book was just learning alongside Salama about what can be used for certain things like jasmine and like lemons.
I had a course in my bachelor's that was called pharmacognosy, which dealt with herbs and flowers. And the final exam was actually so interesting because she had laid out herbs for us. We had to look under a microscope and we had to like say what they were. So it was very interactive, not like paper-based. So I was trying to think of a way to make Salama deal with her anxiety, like these things that would help her. And then I immediately remembered pharmacognosy and I remembered the flowers and the herbs that I used to study. And I'm like, oh, I really want to incorporate that with her because her personality is very scientific based as well. And so she would look for something scientific to hold on to repeat as a mantra. And that's why I used flowers, and because they're so cute. I mean, sometimes it's just vibes and like flowers were vibes, but like they worked really well with her personality.
Yes. As Tiffany has like literally flowers, like fake flowers hanging in
are
her background.
Very core, very.
Yes.
So we also wanted to ask you, we're done with kind of all the plot book specific related questions, but what have you been enjoying in life outside of writing?
Obviously reading. I love to bake. I love baking. I actually was making cookies this afternoon. They're in the fridge. You know, you have to put them in the fridge for 30 minutes and then, you know, so the flour, blah, blah, blah. So I'm making cookies. I love doing that. I love to cook. I love, because Switzerland is so beautiful with nature. So obviously it's so gorgeous in the fall. So we have like a forest. I like to walk there a lot. I love drinking iced coffee. I know this is not like a hobby or anything, but I love it. It's one of my favorite things. And I've recently started journaling and annotating books. So I love doing that as well.
Oh, wholesome life.
Yeah, seriously. Okay. And this one's a little bit segueing differently. For those of us who would like to learn more about Syrian history, culture, and stories, do you have any book recommendations?
Or recommendations in general?
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot of the stories about Syria are Arabic. So there are a lot of Syrian authors. And sadly, not many have been translated into English. I will say that to check out The Map of Salt and Stars by Zain Jukader. He wrote this amazing book also about Syria, and it's like kind of like a historical fiction. And I would say to look out for Reem Shukairy's The Next New Syrian Girl that comes out next year in March. She incorporates Syria in also a story-like way. I cried reading that book. I mean, honestly, it was like the first time reading a YA about Syrians that I didn't write. So it really hit home. Like it was very, very emotional for me. Unfortunately, aside from those two stories, I really don't know any, which is sad in its own way, but hopefully in the future we'd have more.
We believe in it.
And you are part of that. You are helping bring these stories to life and bringing them to the forefront.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have a speed round.
Oh, yes.
But some of these questions are not really like speedy because you may have to think. Sorry.
Okay.
But what is a book that you're looking forward to at the end of this year or in 2023? And I know you mentioned The Next New Syrian Girl, so maybe not that one.
Yes, I do. Oh, wait. I forgot what she named the second book. Okay, Blood Scion by Deborah Fillet. She wrote Blood Scion. And then the second book is coming out next year. I totally forgot what her second book is called. I'm trying to find it right now. Something War Widow, I think it was called War Widow. Yes, War Widow. Yes. So I'm really looking forward to War Widow. If you guys didn't read Blood Scion, oh my God. Wow. I'm not really a person who is really into not like sci-fi, but like kind of like technology sci-fi. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't grab my attention that much. Holy crap, did it grab my attention. It was so good. So 100%, I am so looking forward to her book. Yes, that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how it ended. It was amazing.
We're like adding to our Goodreads shelves, and yes.
Just
What's the
because,
book
like,
you would?
Sorry, I just wanted to say that, like, well, I try to sell that book so much, is that like the mini plot line could be a whole plot by itself. So you can imagine how the big plot is so dramatic, is so wow. Yes, thank you. Yeah, next question.
Definitely. Okay. A book that you would recommend to everyone.
I would say, wow. I would say Love from A to Z. I recommend that book to everyone. It really changed so much in my life. I was like, wow. And also Love from Mecca to Medina, the sequel, is equally adorable and cute.
It was such a good book. What is your favorite Studio Ghibli movie?
I always remember the names of the books after they're done. And If You Could See the Sun by Anne Leong. Oh my God.
I just finished that one.
It's so good. Like, I don't know how she does it. Like, she is a magician with words. I read her second book. She sent it to me. This Time It's Real.
You're so lucky.
Like, it's so much fun being friends with authors. You're gonna love it. It's so cute.
If anyone out there, just like, if you love Kinan, if you love like all these soft boys, all of these books mentioned, you'll get so much of it.
It's like, I called dibs on him as soon as I read the book. I was like, I love him so much. He's amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
What is your favorite Studio Ghibli movie?
Spirited Away. That was the first movie I ever watched, and it has such a special place in my heart.
Iconic.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, from your background, we can tell that you're an army.
Yes.
This might be like a obvious question, maybe based on the background, but we wanted to know who's your bias.
I am.
What's your
OT7.
favorite BTS song?
Yeah, I'm OT7. Yeah, I cannot choose. I don't know how people have biases. I think it's amazing that people do, but I cannot choose because I love them all so much. But I will say that I gravitate towards one more than the other at certain periods of my life. So like now, because Namjoon has Indigo that came out, so I'm like, oh my God, Namjoon. So it really does depend. And if I want some sunshine in my life, like it also does depend with what book I'm writing. So when I was writing Lemon Trees, I was really fixating on Hobie because he's Saddam's bias. And now when I'm writing the second book, actually Namjoon is my main character's bias. And so that really does say a lot about their character, which I love. But it really, really depends. Like I was going through a very sad time and Yoongi was there for me. So it's like, it really is all of them in different periods of my life. And my favorite song, you're really putting me on the spot because all the songs are amazing.
Top 3.
I will say for my 2021, it was Film Out was my top song on Spotify because it's amazing. I love that one. I love Tear and Love Myself. Really good. And Black Swan, an extra. Sorry, I had to. I love them all. They're so good.
Wait, this is a question. I just raised my hand and that was kind of weird, but anyway. Do you have like a book playlist or like a writing playlist? Like
I do. Yes, yeah. Lemon Trees does have a playlist. It's on my Linktree. And also the second book has a playlist, yeah.
Okay, we'll be listening to that as I reread the book.
And then
I recommend.
You kind of hinted at this, but who would be each character's bias? We know Salama-san is like Hobie.
Yeah, Layla's bias would be Jin because like They really do both share that protectiveness towards towards their friends, and they're both very pretty. And Kinan's bias would be also Namjoon, because he just like, in his own way, he's like this poet, and so Kinan would be like, "Oh, this is so amazing!" Like he would really like that.
Yay. Okay. So, last question. Do you have any final messages for your readers?
Thank you so much for picking up this book. I mean, I went with a goal that if only one person reads this book, then I have achieved my goal. And now more than one person has read it, which is very humbling. I mean, a lot of readers I might never meet in my life, but to every single one of you, thank you so much for giving this book not just a place in your house, but also a place in your heart. I mean, that is everything an author wants. So I have achieved everything I wanted with this book. Like I've done it. Like and thanks to you. So thank you so much.
We are rooting for your success, like to beyond. Like we just want so much for you. We're very, very excited for your next books and so much more of your other books. And yeah, we're so thankful that you're here with us today. It was super fun chatting with you. Thank you, everyone who tuned in to listen to us talk about As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. Go reread it. Go listen to the playlist. Go stare at some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful art. And our December book of the month is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. It's a very short book, but hopefully it's a great way for you to wrap up the end of the year. We will not be having a live show or discussion on YouTube, but head over to our Discord. It's going to be a very fun time as we chat about it. And we look forward to seeing you guys again in 2023. Yay. Any other messages?
Have a great December.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.